Welcome to the Crazy Cool Family Podcast with Don and Suzanne Manning.
A podcast where we share with you great insights about everything family from over 30 years of parenting 7 kids and over a decade of equipping parents through our Crazy Cool Family ministry.
So let us inspire and equip you to build your best family.
We are so excited to have you listening today. It's just me and my dad, the Don Manning. We're talking about something really exciting and cool. Don and Suze are finally empty nesters. They kicked the last kid out of the house. They sent him off. Well, they sent him to me, actually. He's in my town now, which is so fun. But we just feel this season of transition as a family. We feel the celebration. We feel the grief of it. And I just wanted to sit down with my mom and dad and be like, okay, now tell me all the things. You've parented for 30 plus years. You're stepping into this next season. Can we talk about it? So that's what we're doing today. Welcome, Dawn. You always welcome Mom onto the podcast, so officially. So welcome, Dawn, to your own podcast.
I feel so welcome.
This is just a dialogue, conversation, and really looking back at what God has done and honestly, like why Dawn and Suze feel like family is worth it, and why they chose to make it their main thing over the last 3 decades and what God has shown them along the way. So excited to talk to you about it, Dad. You ready? Jump in?
Yep. I'm ready. It's been an this has been released, later in the year, but than when we're recording it, obviously. But so I really, this season to me has been kind of started this summer, as we started to see the transition coming. And so it's been a super interesting season. I'm excited to talk about it and really excited to reflect back on, like you say, it's been 33 years, almost 34 years. And for me, never not being a dad. So when Suzanne and I got married, she brought Molly to the marriage as a 2-year-old. And so I've never known family, never known marriage, never known anything without parenting. So this is truly a different season for me.
Yeah. First time you and Mom have ever just been roomies, not parenting roomies, just roomies.
Yes.
And so fun. Okay. Well, let's kind of look back first. There's a lot of young parents that listen to our podcast that are building their family right now. And so if you could look back, what do you wish you could tell your younger self? I'm sure you would tell your younger self a lot of things, but your younger self specifically
so many things
about raising kids. What would you look back and say?
Well, yes, because, first of all, I was what I'm trying to get parents to move away from, even more so today, in that I was a good parent. I was really trying. I don't want them to move away from being a good parent. I was trying hard to be a good parent. And some of the things I was doing well, but some of the things I was trying hard, really hard at some of the wrong things. That's what I found over 30-something years, is that some of the things that I really thought were important to me as a young parent, and according to what I thought, even what the parenting literature said to do, I do differently now, and it's much more effective. It's actually much easier. I never, one of the things I would tell parents today, like I would tell you and Jared, as with your one child about to have another, is it doesn't have to be so hard.
Yeah.
There's hacks, if you will, that make it where it's not so hard. And actually, the way God works, some of the things that make it not so hard also become more effective, because you really do reach the heart of your children. And so then there's a synergy that happens. There's a unity that happens where things flow together rather than all the conflict. My first, 10 years of parenting was characterized by making sure you guys did what you were told and did it the first time. And all those things are good, but I just learned different ways to make those things happen, but more on a team basis rather than me versus you basis.
Yeah, so good. We just we just did so much content in October about emotional regulation, teaching your kids how to walk through meltdown moments. We even have a whole deep dive on my kid is a meltdown monster. Like there's so many things we just put out. Check them out on our store or on our Instagram if you haven't seen them yet. But I feel like you're touching on the exact season Jared and I are in with like, how do we not fight Selah on that's our little girl. How do we not fight Selah on every single little thing? And like, how do we get on the same team as her or the same line? And I feel like that's something you and Mom have really coached us on is like, not everything has to be a conflict. Not everything has to be a fight. Not everything has to be your way versus their way. Like there's hacks, like you just said. And it feels like a lot of times, especially in the toddler years, parents are like missing that element of relationship, and you all like speak directly to it. And there's multiple. There's hacks for littles, hacks for middles, hacks for bigs. Like you've just learned it all because you've gotten to walk it with 7 kids.
Well, and one of the things I would say to that is, and what we're going to talk about today, we talk about 30 years. These things took me years to learn. I say God gave me 7 kids because I had a lot to learn. I mean, I tell parents all the time, man, I wish you could see me at year 5 or year 3. You'd be like, how in the world does this guy ever get 7 kids that love him and not run them all off? Because there's the things. But what I've learned and what I would tell the young parent, what I would tell myself as a young parent is there's a certain like family and the dynamics of family, the dynamics of relationships. We get discipled at church and they teach us how to love God and how to forgive. And those things apply into parenting, no doubt. But there's a certain set of hacks, if you will, there's a certain set of concepts that I didn't get taught in church that we learned. And that's what we try to do at Crazy Cool Family is teach you those things you're not going to get. Again, there's some overlap, but those things you're not going to get at church. And there's things about family that when you learn these concepts that I had no idea when I was that young parent, what those would be. And, I was just clueless. Let's just get them to obey. Just do what I say, get your shoes on, whatever it took.
Yes.
But I learned some things that over time, it was like, wow, this really works better, and it lines up with God's word.
Yeah.
And it really centers around pursuing the relationship, treating them like individuals rather than about things you need to control, stuff like that. Tone, becoming encouraging and inspiring, not fighting the battles like you're saying, those things. Yeah. That's what I would tell go. And what I tell young parents a lot, and I feel like sometimes sometimes it works, and sometimes it feels like it's like, bouncing off the wall to them. They're not listening. Is that go learn how to do family because one, it's going to make life a lot easier for you. Yeah. God says, "My yoke is easy, my burden is light." He says that because when you follow His ways, things work. But also, it's more effective.
Yeah,
you get lasting change rather than always have to fight the battles.
Yeah, that's so good. Okay, talking about a big family. I know we probably have a lot of growing families that listen to this, but in growing and having a big family, how did you balance the chaos with connection?
It was definitely chaos. So we have just, as you said, our last child, McKay, just went to University of Arkansas, and so we really have, it's just the two of us now. And first time ever, and we're looking at each other going, wow, this really is quiet. It's super quiet. It was really more, even with one kid, it's like, and he was kind of on his own. He was doing a lot, but it's crazy to me to think of at one time we had 7 kids in our house. Because there's 17-year difference. So when Molly was 17, McKay was being born. And so and she stayed home from college for a couple of years. So there was a few years that there was 7 kids. I remember having, 3 or 4 kids playing basketball and youth basketball at one time. I was coaching all the teams. And it's like, it really was chaotic. And we were not a family that was real strict about rules. So, I mean, it definitely led to some chaos. But I think, the biggest thing that I learned through it, and it was part of that journey I was talking about learning about family, is that we decided again, probably at the end of I do my parenting in decades. We're starting our fourth decade of parenting right now. We're in the beginning stages of it, if you will. And at the end of decade number one, we started having a bunch of kids. By the time I was at the end of the first decade, we had 4 little girls. And Michael was born in our 9th year of parenting, so we were starting to have the boys as well. We focused on pursuing relationship instead of behavior. And that was a big, big shift.
Yeah.
That we focused on the connection rather than the performance. And what we found is when the connection was good, the performance would happen.
Yeah.
But if we focused on the performance, a lot of times the performance didn't happen and we didn't have the connection.
Yeah.
But that was a big, big shift that I think helped us. It was almost out of necessity. So people ask us all the time, how many kids should we have? And I'm like, not 7, but there's a lot, and it's a lot going on. But I'm kidding. But I mean, I think when you start passing 4 kids, it really does change the dynamics of you really do feel outnumbered. You feel like, and so it was almost out of necessity. We had to do something to figure out the hack, if you will, to make the chaos make it more bearable where it didn't, drive us crazy. But
yeah. Well, that's so good, saying like the relationship piece.
What's that?
I was saying that's so good. The relationship piece is what changed. It's not that the chaos changed. It's that when you started focusing on relationship, that's when connection started happening at greater levels. It's like you can't change the chaos. It's going to happen. And rules, a lot of times, things we can make, that's what we think can control the chaos. But it's like, no, relationship, connection, knowing your kid, feeling connected to them. It doesn't eliminate it, but it makes it more life-giving or fruitful.
And also, I think a lot of chaos happens. Some people tell us all the time, I can't imagine having 7 kids. I can't do I can't go with 2 kids or whatever. And, another thing that having a lot of kids made us do is it made us have, and Suzanne did most of this, I give her all the credit, but I mean, we really made the kids responsible for their own lives.
Yeah.
That at a young age, they were responsible for their own homework. They were responsible. They helped do their own laundry. McCade, when he was a young kid, I mean, I remember him being like 3 years old, climbing the pantry to get us something to eat.
Yeah, coming downstairs and he's just making himself his own cereal, his own corny dogs, just squirting his own mustard. You're like, you're 2.5. How do you even know how to do that?
Well, and but some of it, like I said, out of necessity. But I think that parents also, that we need to empower our kids and let them make mistakes. And, that's part of the relational connective process is to say, hey, this is a safe environment. This is a place that you can make mistakes. This is a place you can learn. And I think creating that's why so often at Crazy Cool Family, we learn about that and we talk about in the word culture, because if you create a connective culture in your home, if you create a culture where they're doing things on their own and they're more responsible for things, I think parents just drive themselves crazy right now trying to control everything.
Yeah.
I mean, they're trying to do everything for their kids and not letting them make mistakes. And I just think that's exhausting. And so we kind of moved away from that as soon as we could.
Yeah, makes sense. Okay, we're going to talk about, I know you don't love talking about failure, but it's good. What were moments you felt like you failed as a parent, and how did God meet you in those moments?
Oh my goodness. You asked me that question for the podcast and I just brought to mind parenting is a series of failures. I mean, in so many ways.
So fun.
But here's the encouragement is our kids are resilient.
Yeah.
And they parents, I feel like we put ourselves on this pedestal that we have to be perfect. And, it's just not possible for one, but it's not really even required. It reminded me, like, when Molly was young, our oldest. So one day I was dragging her around on the carpet, just all over the house, upstairs, just dragging her around. All of a sudden she's like, "Dad, this hurts a little bit." And sure enough, she had like carpet burns all down her back. And, and it was like bad. I mean, they were like really bad, and I had no idea I did it. Of course, we had small group that night. And so she goes up to everybody in the small group, "Look what my dad did to me." And she said, I was like, just want to get away. It's like, but I mean, those are funny moments. I mean, it wasn't funny. It really did hurt her. But I mean, it was funny that, it was not intentional. But then, you got, just times that I just, especially younger as a young parent, just lost it with you guys, the girls, and, super being, I remember just trying to put you guys down for naps. And it's like, oh my goodness, who am I? I'm so frustrated that you wouldn't go to sleep, Macy, we had our stuff. I mean, it was like there was this awkward high school time when we were, I felt like there's no matter what I do, I don't connect. There's been connective issues with a lot of our kids through middle school and high school, especially working through just feeling like I'm just doing it. What am I, like feeling that whatever I'm doing, it's just not enough or it's wrong. And and I think that happened throughout parenting, but then you learn, and it's the cool deal is that I was at a good local church, and they were discipling me. I had men, speaking into my life, and other couples, and we never did. We had a great group of friends that we were growing up with, and so. I would talk to my buddy Todd or Kevin, and they would say, "Yeah, I know, I did the same thing," and or whatever. I'd watch them and I'd go, "Well, I don't know what I'm doing, but at least it's better than what he's doing." But there's parenting is just a lot of learning, a lot of what feels like failure, and really, I think sometimes I feel like as dads, because we don't feel like we're doing it right, we withdraw.
Yeah.
The one thing I did, I'll give myself credit for, is I engaged.
Yeah.
So when I engaged, it meant I was going to make a lot of mistakes. And so I had to kind of get that mindset of, well, I could either not try, but I felt like that was a lot worse than trying and failing and learning.
Oh, totally. Yeah. Well, and it is like coming from the kid perspective, thinking about our awkward middle school, high school years. If you had just quit trying to connect with me, or you would even express like, it's too hard to connect with Macy, or I just don't connect with her. Like if you had been doing that, how much more damage would you have done to the relationship? Like there's failure and then there's quitting. And there's like, those are two very different things. And it felt like as a dad, I mean, yes, a mom too, but especially as a dad, it's like, don't quit, like never quit. It's never too late. Never quit on your kid. Because to me, that's like the ultimate failure. When you talk to, the friend in your small group, or you talk to, the person at the supermarket, and daddy wounds come out like so quick. It's like the first thing people go to, like, "Oh yeah, my dad was a deadbeat." And you're just like, oh, I'm so sorry for you. Like, that he quit on you. That's just not the heart of God when it comes to having fathers and families. And so it's like failure is really quitting, not making mistakes. And if dads can like wrap their head around that concept, to like keep showing up, keep engaging, keep asking for forgiveness, that was like huge for you and I, as when we were both finally deciding to being humble and being like, "I'm sorry, I don't know how to connect with you," or "I'm sorry, I'm a hormonal teenager and I don't want to connect with you," and just like having that authenticity to keep showing up, I think speaks volumes to the kid.
And I remember being young in my faith, young in my parenting, because those two came. I really came to Christ fully and completely my first year of marriage. I always say that, being married and having a kid will do that to you. It'll make you go to Jesus. But but in reality, that's what happened. So my parenting journey was along with my spiritual journey. And I remember getting the concept of you ask forgiveness all the time.
Yeah.
How many times do you forgive? 70 times 7 and all the things. And I'm like, really? And no matter what getting the teaching that if you're in conflict, chances are if I think I'm 90% right, the other person thinks they're 90% right, I should go apologize for my 10%.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Really? I mean, it's just, okay, having to jump off that cliff with that. And then seeing it work so well that, when if I had a conflict with one of my children or my wife, is to go back to them and say, man, I'm like, for example, having the standard of, I don't get to yell at my kids.
Yeah.
And then yelling at my kids and breaking that standard. But because I had the standard and because I've been taught to forgive, going to you guys and just going, man, I'm sorry I yelled at you. And watching oh, it's okay, Daddy. It's okay. Almost like comforting me, even though I screwed up. It's okay. It's okay. We're, because when you watch that relationship restore. So, I screwed up a lot, but it felt like that, through my discipleship, I learned some ways to restore that. And, Mom and I were talking about, I'll finish that part with this. It's like the things we teach in Crazy Cool Family now are coming from the things we learn.
Yeah.
And what I find is they're super simple things, but they're hard.
Yeah.
like asking forgiveness, even when you think they're a whole lot more wrong than you do. Okay. That's something I just told. I could sit down, and I'm doing it right now. I'm sitting down with you guys and saying, okay, that's a great concept that'll dramatically change your parent. Now, go do it.
Yeah.
and watch how hard it is. And so, we even design everything we do at Crazy Cool Family. How can we drip these concepts into you? Because it's not the information. You don't need more information. Yeah. You need to learn a little bit like that and go do it about 100 times. And then you're going to see the benefit from it.
Yeah, totally. So good. Okay, I want to spend a little bit of time thinking. That was kind of like looking back, thinking where you've been, where you've come from, and I want to look a little bit ahead. All of your kids are almost in their 20s. They're 18, 19, and beyond. And so how do you feel now that your kids are like stepping into adulthood? Yeah.
Still old is what it is.
Yeah. How do you feel walking into adulthood, having adult kids, adult relationships with your kids, and what brings you the most joy in those relationships now?
Grandkids, of course.
Yes.
Forget
the children.
Forget the children. Oh my goodness. It is, one of the things that it does bring me joy to see the marriages and the families. I mean, the other day, I think I told you this, Macy, but haven't told the audience. So, hey, we always talk about at Crazy Cool Family, the number of relationships in a home. We have our family dashboard, and there's God at the top, and then the marriage, and the husband and wife, and then the kids at the bottom. And so I think for like our 7-member family, there's 45 relationships in the home. And, that's just in our nuclear family. Well, now when you multiply it to 5 in-laws and 10 grandkids or 8 grandkids, 2 more on the way, and all the people there, I asked ChatGPT the other day, I said, how many relationships are in our home now? And they said 260.
Oh my God.
What brings me a lot of joy is, and remember, again, I go back to my younger self. I say the main thing we did is we started focusing on connection, and that which you focus on will come about.
Yeah.
And that also, especially when it lines up with what God wants for our lives. And so today, those 260 relationships are all good. I mean, if you think, you're a witness to that, you think about all the relationships between all the siblings, all the in-laws, all the grandkids, all the cousins, obviously our grandkids are 2. They don't have the relationship with God yet. But to think about that 34 years ago, whatever it's been, there were me and Molly and Suzanne and God. Yeah. And now it's multiplied into this community of 24 people about to be. And God's just done a great work in that. So that brings me a lot of joy to see the way it's multiplied and the way it is multiplying, as we continue, because we've grafted these, like the in-laws, they've come into our family. And it's like, once you build a culture, the culture tends to drive the behavior rather than the people. And so we've built a culture of inclusiveness. We've built a culture of community. And I think our in-laws and now our grandkids are starting to embrace that as well.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I've never thought about that. Like you and Mom started, and Molly, like you guys started this ripple effect of relationships just within our own little family nucleus. It's not including our extended families. It's not including our communities. Like the amount of relationships you and Mom are currently touching because of your 7 kids and beyond is like, it's probably thousands, just like the way that, and that's not even including your audience or your ministry or anything. It's just like this culture that you're creating is permeating out through your kids, through your grandkids, through your influence. And it's good, like you're putting out a culture that is life-giving and kingdom-minded, and it's good. And that's like really, that should bring joy.
The joy I get from it and what we try to get parents to do is that what we learn more than anything is that if your relationships and your culture and your home are strong, you will survive and thrive in no matter what the circumstances are. Now, in reality, what's going to come out of that is you're going to get kids who are doing well in school and they're doing well in sports or whatever their extra activities are. They're involved in their church because you've created the culture that also releases. But when you do that, and it's one of the greatest joys I have now, is that when you create that and creating the culture like that, the culture of connection and the culture of inclusiveness, meaning that acceptance, if you will, it's hard. And it takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of intentionality, but it's worth it because now it's extending to and I didn't realize, if you'd have asked me at year 5 what was going to happen, I have no idea what that vision was going to be. But probably about year 10 to 15, I started to see, wow, if we do this could happen. And now to see the fruit of that is a great joy.
So good. Okay, going to land the plane here. I feel like there's so much more we could talk about. I think there's been so many wins about family. You touched on this, but there's been so much attributed to the church and being part of the local church and that really defining why your family journey was the way it was. So I just want to quick plug the local church. We're not going to spend a lot of time talking about this, but like if your family is not involved in a local church, I would say that was one of the biggest keys to success for my parents is like my dad said, having that community of different men in different seasons, but just having people that you can process faith with. And if your family is not focused on Jesus, everything my dad is talking about is not going to work. It's like all kingdom focused. And it's because of him learning these concepts in the context of scripture, church, community, that there's been such fruit. And so I just want to touch on that too. But I want to end by saying, from my perspective, I just turned 30, which feels crazy.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. But from my perspective as a kid, I'm in the middle of the pack. I had great relationship with my mom, and I feel like my dad and I really strengthened our relationship through all the chaos. Like we chose connection over chaos through the years, and our relationship is like the best it's ever been, unless you have some big dark secret you haven't told me about, Dad. But we're like working together, we're doing life together, we're adults together. Feels really fun. from my perspective, what I'm trying to say is it feels like you and mom chose to make family your main thing. You still worked, you still provided, you still, ran your thousands and thousands of miles and marathons. Like, you still were Dawn Manning, but it feels like you and mom chose to make family your main thing. And that's what you're known for now that you're empty nesters, now that your kids are grown. And so why do you believe, Dad, it's worth it to like make family your main thing? Like, why'd you do it over the last 30 plus years? It can be so exhausting to raise kids and like choose them over and over. Why do you believe it was worth it?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I really did. I made a conscious choice to, a lot of my friends really went after their careers hard. And I wanted to make money. I was very much geared towards making money, and God has blessed me. It's been a great business career as well. But I really felt like that I needed to balance that career and life and money focus with family. I think there's a number of things that come to mind, but I want to try to kind of summarize it. But I remember being about in that the latter part of the first decade. It was a really challenging thing. I had me and 5 women in my house. I mean, if you think about that, that was a lot. It really challenged me because the emotions and the words and all the things that were happening, and I'm kind of like, I thought I knew what I was doing, but I really realized that I didn't. But more than anything, I looked out ahead of me, and I saw a lot of parents, Christian parents, that were trying hard at family, and they really weren't getting out of it what they wanted.
Yeah.
I don't mean that their kids were, sometimes it was that they were sleeping around or, doing drugs or whatever. But it was more that there was just a lot of disconnect. And no matter what, I could see ahead of me and say, wow, I've got to work. I'm going to spend a lot of time with these people. Do I want it to be all messed up, or do I want it to be really good? And so I've always been like you, Sarah. I've run marathons. I've done a lot of things. I like to, dive into things. And I said, okay, how do I become an expert at family? And I remember telling God, I said, there's 2 things I told the Lord about that time. I just said that I'm going to learn all I can about family, and I'm going to give it everything I have. And if that doesn't work, God, it's your fault. It really is. Because I'm gonna do. I made this. I literally made it. That's what I try to get parents to do today: is make the conscious decision to make the effort and to become an expert in family. Because that's what I did. Because I didn't want what I saw ahead of me.
Yeah.
I didn't want, because I knew I was going to do a lot of work at it. And I also found, I just never will forget going into the nurseries, after we had babies, and looking at you guys and going, I didn't know I could love like this.
Mm.
I didn't know that, it was like these guys are the most important things in the world to me. And to think about how these parents were, their kids weren't where they wanted them to be. And to think about that, in 20, 30 years, am I going to look back and go, wow, I didn't do what I wanted, what I thought I should do? That was, I was just looking at some scripture today in 2 Corinthians 5. It says, for Christ's love compels us. Mm. And I felt like that was kind of it, that it was like, wow, I don't know, something, I feel like it was the Lord that told me, just said, hey, if you'll work hard at this, things will happen well. And it was just worth it. And it was just worth it because I just saw that it was going to be real, especially with a lot of kids, it was going to be a real disaster if I didn't. I remember thinking that I want to go 7 for 7. Yeah. And because I looked up, I said, I saw like, what if I go 5 for 7? That means 2 kids are going to really disrupt our home. Yeah. And anyway, a long answer to it, but it's, there was definitely a time that I said, I'm going to focus on that. And it's kind of what we do with Crazy Cool Family. We try to get those parents to say, this is the day of salvation. This is the day of change. This is the day to mark mark a line in the sand and say, I'm going to give it my best. Because don't look up and when the kid, I talk to dads all over the country that go, man, I wish I'd have had this when I was 5 years into my parenting, because now I don't have that relationship with my son or daughter. And I'm glad I did it differently.
Yeah. Well, it's really convicting too, because growing up playing babies and dolls and dollhouse, it's like I had this idea of family, and then fast forward 20 years and I'm doing it and I'm living it. And I literally told my husband this on my 30th birthday. I'm like, thanks for helping me make my dreams come true. Like when I was a little girl, I remember wanting exactly what I have. This is a dream that I'm living out. And then you're in the midst of it and your child just hit you across the face for no reason. And you're like, this dream stinks. Who would ever want this, And it's that expectation versus reality. But it's like really convicting hearing you say all this, because you're basically saying like, hey, you chose family, so choose family. Like you chose to have kids, so choose to give them everything you've got, because they're not just this expectation of a cool family or cool Christmas photos or people to spend your holidays with. It's like, no, they're people, they're souls, their hearts. They're like, you chose this, so be all in. And it feels like you and Mom, both of you have said that multiple times in your interviews. You're like, we're not perfect. We messed it up. God gave us a bunch of kids so that he could refine us and teach us. It's a holy work. We're not trying to downplay that, but we are trying to raise up a generation of parents that choose family. It's like, you chose, so choose,
And let me kind of, I think a good way to end the podcast is really where I'm at right now is, this summer, I was, I'll tear up as I talk about it, but I was just thinking about, dang, I was going to get through this whole thing without crying. Because
don't worry, we'll turn it into a reel and it'll get lots of views.
And, but three things I saw this summer. One of them there's been sadness. It's the end of an era, and so we're getting older. I'm thankful that we have Jesus, because every step is better as you go forward.
Yeah.
And we got to believe that. But there's a sadness that, looking back, wow, would you go, yeah, it's been a great ride. It's been a lot of fun. But also just, and what I wanted to, reason I brought it up was just gratefulness, because, when I look back over the almost 34 years, we have pursued the Lord, and we have learned a lot about family. And there's a lot of things that, even though, yes, we've made some mistakes. If you look at our lives, and when people come to us, they'll say, yeah, you've followed Jesus and you've done your best, and, and you've learned and grown and stuff. But even with all of that, and we've, pursued you guys as kids and tried to be great parents and all the things, even with all that, the reason we are where we are today is the favor of God.
Yeah.
It is crazy. I just am all summer, I've just been super grateful all summer and into the fall, super grateful. The reason I say summer is because we released Cade in August, and so I was thinking about it all summer, and just grateful beyond measure of the favor of God on our family. And I tell parents too, I believe every family can win. And I believe that we can all go 100% with our kids.
Yeah.
And we'll never stop believing that. But it really does, because I believe that when we do certain things certain ways, we unlock the favor of God, and the ripple effect happens. And then the last thing that I have felt is just excitement. You're talking about because now we are free. It's crazy. We come home and nobody's here. It's like, wow, this is cool. But we also, we're free to pursue other things that God's brought in our lives. And we just are free to also pursue what family looks like for the next, hopefully, 20, 30 years that we're here.
Yeah.
So super grateful for what God's done. And I just, you ask why I did it, because honestly, I wanted to be where I am right now.
Yeah.
I didn't want to look back with regrets. I didn't want to look back with wish I'd have done more. I didn't want to have broken relationships. And it's a super blessing to have our family where it is today.
Love it. Well, hopefully you were encouraged. Whoever's listening, share this podcast with dads, moms, families, grandparents, anybody. We as a whole ministry, we care about raising up families, building best families. But even this new frontier of like grandparents, empty nesters, this whole new dynamic of in-laws and grandkids, like we're pulling in a lot more content, but also perspective as my parents walk out this next season of empty nesters. And so the goal is for you to be encouraged and challenged wherever you're at in your parenting season, grandparenting season, empty nester season. Like family is so worth it. It's worth every sacrifice, every late night, every hard season. It's like God's way of shaping you as a person, as a son or a daughter, but also shaping your legacy. Like you leave behind all these relationships. What state are they going to be in? Like what peace is going to be between them, or turmoil, connection or disconnection. And I think God really cares about that. So really encouraging. Any last thoughts? Any last encouragement?
Along with that, I would say, let us help you. Mm-hmm. And I don't care about what stage of parenting you're at. What I'll say is that, go to crazycoolfamily.com, get our emails coming to you. We're constantly improving what we're doing. We're constantly improving our content, but also the way we deliver it to you. But here's what I'll tell you is that if you're inspired, if God's laying it on your heart to be inspired to be your best as a parent and to have your best family, the way you learn that is you take a little concept and then a little bit of information, and then you go and try to apply it. So it doesn't have to be overwhelming. In fact, that's one of the reasons we give you like a 200-word email every day, because we want it to be something that's bite-sized that you take but if any family can win, I don't care where you are, single parent, you're getting a divorce, your husband's not following, or wife's not following Jesus, whatever, or if everything's great and you've got wherever your situation is, or if you've got a kid with an issue, or your 2-year-old's great, or whatever you're, just start today. Start today and start to follow us and start to invest and take a next step. And you'll be amazed. You'll look up in a year, things will be different. I just had a lady tell me the other day, she's new to Crazy Cool Family, and she's got three kids, and all she did was follow one thing: encourage extravagantly. Encourage extravagantly. 2 words. 2 words is all she's done. And her mom came from out of town and said, "Your house is different." And she was like, "Why?" She said, "I don't know. Just the whole atmosphere has changed of your house." And she says, "Oh, we learned to encourage." And that was it. That was it. That's all that happened. And so just try it and be, I can't tell you enough that family is the best thing you'll ever do in your life. It's the most important responsibility we have in our lives. I'm not passionate about that or anything, but I've gotten the benefit of it. And now I want you to as well. So in all that, parents, all you got to do is go to our website, jump in, or tell your friends this too. It's the greatest gift you can give them. Just go and sign up for our email. We'll start you from there. And, just go to crazycoolfamily.com and get started. Go be crazy, because that's what it takes to raise a family. Crazycoolfamily.com.